Hello, thank you for having me. Welcome to Oxford, where I'm based. My name is Greg Piechota. I'm a researcher in residence at the International News Media Association, and I will be talking today about the state of reader revenue in 2020. So imagine that you run the newspaper called Dagens Nyheter. This is the biggest quality daily newspaper, the serious one. It's a liberal daily. It was established in 19th century, and it has a paywall since 2015. It is a freemium paywall, so it means that some stories on the website are paid and some others are free. And up to the start of this year, they amassed 170,000 digital-only subscribers. And then, of course, it happened. So the pandemic, the outbreak of the COVID-19, and it was an event unprecedented in terms of scale and duration when we think about the news events, because the demand for news spiked around the world. It doubled versus the averages for the past 5 years, or even tripled when we compare it to the early 2000s. And when we look at the demand for coronavirus information in Sweden alone, you will see tremendous peak first in late January when the outbreak started in Europe, and then in March when it moved on from Italy to other countries like Sweden, and then the third peak in April. What is the right thing to do during the COVID-19 outbreak? Should we unlock the paywall, or should we not? Should we keep charging readers for this very important information? But very soon, they noticed that in March, the daily online traffic to the Dagens Nyheter website spiked 100% or even 125% on some days. And video traffic was also up more than 4 times. Within a month, almost all content has a coronavirus tag. Advertising is down. The company needs to cut costs. They need to put like 20% of their staff on a temporary layoff. So what is the right thing to do? Should we keep the content open, or should we rather keep it closed and available only to subscribers? This is where the mission of journalism collides with business responsibilities and larger responsibilities, broader responsibilities of news publishers towards the society and other stakeholders. What Dagens Nyheter has decided was a very common way of thinking. So first they thought, when the outbreak started, it's very important to make sure that people are safe. So we should unlock the COVID-19 content to all readers for free, regardless whether they are subscribers or not. But then when we see that we have other duties, not only towards the society, but also towards our employees, we need to keep them paying. We have also a commitment that we want to provide a sustainable journalism. So we don't want to give away stories only for the first month. We need to make sure that the organization can survive much longer and provide this essential service. So they started to ask readers to become subscribers, even for free. So they started to offer trials to new subscribers, first for free and then paid. And as a result, during the COVID-19, they signed up 150,000 new people. And by the end of May, they actually grew the number of paying subscribers to 220,000. When I look at the news publishers like, the global brands like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, or the national news brands like Bild, Times of London, La Nation, Aftonbladet, Folha de São Paulo, or the local news brands in Boston, in Chicago, in Seattle, or in Austria, in Styria, we see this tremendous surge in demand for quality journalism. And we also saw a surge in online subscription sales. So, for example, European publishers, on average, they saw a spike in new subscription sales for online, more than 146%. So it's basically some of them doubled their sales, some of them tripled the sales. If you are looking for any proof that journalism still has a value in today's societies, this is the proof. So the thing about getting people to pay for content is not about forcing them, not about limiting their access to all kinds of media. This is more about asking yourself a question: who is the one who has the highest willingness to pay? And what's really unique about our journalism that people would like to pay for? So it's about segmentation and differentiation, the basic terms in marketing. What I can see is that, we can look at the average feature importance. We can see that matters like user registration matters a lot in establishing who is the most likely to pay. And this is because of self-selection. So if somebody registers to your website, wants to get an access to a newsletter, or wants to get an access to comments, they show you they are really interested in what you are doing, so they are more likely to pay. And interestingly, models that predict likelihood to purchase show very similar traits to models that try to predict who is going to cancel the subscription, who is going to renew the subscription. So as you can see, tenure, so loyalty, long-term engagement, visit frequency, habit will be the most important predictors for whether somebody is going to stay a subscriber or not. What you can see here is that most visitors to news sites, they read too little to actually convert anytime soon into subscribers. And when we look at how many of those the algorithms predicted could subscribe, there were also the highest proportions in these two segments. And when we look at people who actually subscribed, it also is coming from these two segments. What it all tells us is that big news events, they are huge opportunities to sell subscriptions to people who used to read you before. And there are big opportunities to attract new readers to the website, but you need to engage them before you can actually sell anything to them. So what we know for sure is that you can't just grow your readership and engagement with the newsroom alone, or with the marketing alone, or with the product and technology alone. All these different parts of the company have the role to play, and the success requires collaboration. And interestingly, when we research journalists and editors, they usually talk like craftsmen. They talk about effort, that this story was very difficult to dig in. It required a lot of investigation. And it is interesting because when we look at the actual offers of subscription, what people put into the bundles and how marketeers communicated to the readers, they talk about different things. They very often talk about the brand awareness. So do you know these people, these editors? Do you know these columnists? They often emphasize the rich media formats, like we have videos, we have podcasts. They talk a lot about user experience. So like, we have great mobile app, we have a great tablet app. And this is all interesting because they basically talk about very different things than journalists believe. So what is premium for readers? And, at the Reuters Institute here in Oxford, when we were looking at it several years ago, we found that the most important reason to pay for online news is convenience. I can read my news on any device I want. And then they talked a lot about brand, but not about whether they know the brand, but whether they trust the brand. And then relevance of content, but relevance understood as, is it really content that is useful to me? Is it really the content that is inspiring to me, interesting to me? And then when people talk about quality of content, they don't really talk about rich media. They talk about expertise. Do you have journalists that are experts in a field? Do you quote experts in stories? And when they talk about mission and why they want to fund journalism, they don't want to fund journalists per se. They don't want to fund the newsroom, the office. What they want to fund is the impact that the journalism brings to the world, the change that it inspires. When journalists write something about, those in power, they might influence change. And this is what people really want to pay for. I think it is kind of true that news content is a free commodity. It's widely available everywhere for free. So people are not really paying for content. What people are paying for, in my opinion, is journalism. So they are paying for the process of verification of information, for sense making, for witnessing things, for investigation. These are the core functions of journalism, really, that people are willing to pay for. If there is anything new here, I think it is also the responsibility for the newsroom and journalists to think about creating and developing audiences. We need to make people actually read our content to be able to sustain ourselves. We need to think about who is the target group for our stories. You know, what is the angle that would make this content useful to these people, interesting and inspiring. So to summarize my presentation, at the time of a crisis, people turn to journalism for guidance. We have a proof of it. Usage is a key predictor of sales, and habits help people stay engaged. News content is a free commodity, but differentiate the product to sell, differentiated by focusing on journalism. And then growth comes from testing and learning, and it requires collaboration between the newsroom, the marketing, and product and technology functions. Thank you very much for this presentation, for the opportunity to talk to you. If you have any questions, please find me on the internet. You can email me. There is an email address here, or you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have. And if you are interested more in my work, you can get my recent book that I wrote together with a Brazilian professor, Thales Teixeira, about this tremendous shift from advertising-based business models to reader revenue business models in news media. Thank you very much.